I'm Max Darrow, and this is The Minute. Today, the Golden State Valkyries will look to get their first ever WNBA win. They're on the road against the Phoenix Mercury in a preseason matchup. You can catch all the action this afternoon at 3 o'clock, 44 Cable 12 on Pix Plus. Sonoma County Superior Court has ruled in favor of Sonoma State University's budget reduction plan. This comes after students filed a motion against the university for cutting its athletic and academic programs. The university faces a $24 million budget shortfall. Today is the final day of the San Francisco International Arts Festival. It features performances and art exhibits that includes a dancer honoring female Indian writers and embracing both South Asian and American identities. I'm Max Darrow with The Minute.
You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
Downtown San Francisco hoping to turn things around by expanding entertainment. Meet business owners banking on new block parties to ramp up the rebound.
But for the first time since COVID, I'm finally feeling like there may be a light at the end of the tunnel.
Plus, the Golden State Valkyries took the court in their first preseason opener ever. We'll meet the head coach, Natalie Nakase, who is making history in more ways than just one. Plus, a new way to find a place to live in this tough housing market. We'll introduce you to a college student who scored a room to rent with a catch.
It doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like a chore to lend a helping hand.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Max Darrow. Let's get right over to meteorologist Zoe Mintz.
After a beautiful and warm start to the weekend, a big cool down is on the way today. But early this morning, it's not necessarily cool. In fact, it's seasonable, if not a degree or two above average for this time of year, sitting in the 50s from the Santa Clara Valley to our inland communities and all the way to the North Bay. Well, you might see a couple of upper 40s in the North Bay, but either way, it is within a degree or two of normal, if not above average for this time of year. But do not expect the above average conditions to stick around for much longer than this morning, because by the afternoon, you are going to really feel a cool down. In fact, you might even be about 20 degrees cooler today compared to yesterday. Yesterday, we were in the 80s and 90s. Today, you'll be lucky to reach the 70s across our inland communities. Upper 60s to low 70s from the Santa Clara Valley to the inland East Bay, all the way up to the North Bay. Those highs are only going to be in the mid 60s as the onshore flow is going to take hold. Those windier conditions are going to arrive today, but it's not necessarily going to be any cloudier today. In fact, we'll actually be seeing a lot of sunshine throughout this afternoon before the potential for rain arrives later tonight. And that chance for rain will arrive overnight and into early Monday morning along a frontal boundary. But you notice as it pushes farther south over the bay, it kind of fizzles out. It dissipates. A lot drier air as it pushes south. So we really aren't expecting all too much heavy rainfall, but we'll take whatever rain we can get this time of year. That rain is going to continue again along with some breezier conditions. That's going to pick up tomorrow, but tomorrow no rain. The rain arrives overnight and those breezy conditions along with rainy conditions to kick off the upcoming week. Breaking down the exact timing again, most of today is going to be sunny, maybe a little bit of fog lingering across our South Bay communities, but that's really going to be it. Really not too much to worry about until overnight tonight. That's when the rain will be arriving to our North Bay communities, pushing south over the entirety of the Bay Area, but really it's not going to be heavy rainfall. I would still suggest giving yourself an extra couple of minutes on the roads to kick off the day Monday, but other than that, it's not going to be too impressive. A couple of hundredths of an inch maximum, maybe a couple of tenths of an inch across our North Bay. It will quickly push by the late morning and early afternoon hours, and although an isolated shower or two is possible Monday afternoon and evening, it's going to be a lot drier on the back end of this system. You still can't rule out an isolated shower early Tuesday as well, but those maximum rainfall totals are nothing to write home about. No flooding concerns, and we'll be lucky to get a tenth of an inch picked up across most of the bay. What's also good news is not only some rain, but also a little bit of snow, maybe an inch to 2 inches of snow across the highest elevations of the Sierra, as the storm system is definitely going to be packing a punch across northern California. But again, the further south it goes, the drier it gets. So we'll be looking at a little bit of action, but quickly departing into Tuesday. By the time that we step out Wednesday and into Thursday, we will be right back to normal for this time of year, right back into the mid to upper 70s to low low 80s. So honestly, it is really not going to be anything too impressive over the next 7 days. It is going to be a pretty quick cool down that's going to arrive into early next week, and it's going to quickly warm right back up by mid to late next week. Those temperatures getting right back into the 70s around the bay. So grab an umbrella and grab a warmer jacket to kick off the week, but you're not going to need it much longer than Monday and maybe into early Tuesday.
In the post-pandemic years, it's been tough to draw people back to downtown San Francisco. Take a walk, there's still a lot of empty storefronts, and the sidewalks aren't regularly bustling like they once were. But one strategy that has shown promising results over the past year is throwing a party. Case in point, Downtown First Thursdays, which launched 1 year ago. It's a monthly block party that's been drawing large crowds to 2nd Street. Then there are the free concerts. What you're looking at here was last week in that same area. Downtown San Francisco, almost unrecognizable with that turnout. The crowd stretched several blocks. There are also special themed events like Oktoberfest, where the beer was flowing inside the Front Street Entertainment Zone, the city's first entertainment zone. So now the city is trying to build on this momentum with a brand new summer block party series called Fridays on Front Street. I spoke with local business owners who are banking on the party.
These murals were from the 1930s from an artist named Herman Richter.
With a window into the past on the walls of his bar, Andy Chun is determined to ensure Schroeder's has a place in downtown San Francisco's future.
We feel a huge responsibility to keep this business going.
That's why he doesn't think twice when an opportunity to be a part of a bigger push to bring people downtown comes up. And the latest effort is providing him with some newfound optimism.
We have a long way to go, but for the first time since COVID, we're 5 years out now, like literally 5 years out. I'm finally feeling like there may be a light at the end of the tunnel.
He will have a front row seat to Fridays on Front Street, a handful of block parties taking place in the Front Street Entertainment Zone through the summer and the fall. Well-known music and event promoter Noise Pop will curate a live music stage for the events. And if these events are anything like the other entertainment zone events already in play, like Oktoberfest, Chun says they will make a difference.
We'll have, sometimes 4,000 or 5,000 people here, which is fantastic. It could be a week's worth of sale in a day.
We're definitely viewing the Front Street Entertainment Zone as a venue.
Melissa Buckminster is with the Downtown San Francisco Partnership.
This whole street will be open to pedestrians and closed to cars. There's going to be live music. There's going to be vendors out on the street selling drinks, food.
Buckminster says their data shows these events provide bursts of revenue to the businesses in the entertainment zone. She points at Oktoberfest as an example. More than 8,000 people attended. Harrington's bar saw 16 times the number of sales when compared to a typical Friday night. The hope is that people will be reintroduced to downtown San Francisco and no longer see it as just a 9-to-5 neighborhood.
We're not saying that a singular event is going to change what's going on in downtown, but what we can say is the steady drumbeat of events, activations, and obvious love for an area changes the way that people interact with it.
Though some downtown business owners outside of the perimeter of the various activations tell us they haven't seen the boost they'd hoped for yet. Patience and persistence will continue to be key from Chun's perspective.
This is just the first step. Come down and check out an event and hopefully you have a really good time. But, more to come. This is just the beginning of what we imagine downtown San Francisco could end up becoming.
A look into the future from the streets of a neighborhood with a storied past. So when it comes to measuring the success of Downtown First Thursdays, according to the event organizers, the event series has generated about $11.9 million in spending at downtown businesses and with small local vendors. As for the people impact, the event has brought more than 180,000 attendees to the neighborhood over the course of the series. And that's not really the only initiative in place to try to bring more people downtown. Wells Fargo just announced a $1 million donation to a handful of organizations that are working at the city's downtown revitalization. And that includes SF New Deal, which will use some of the funds to scale up its Vacant to Vibrant pop-up program.
With this investment by Wells Fargo, we're really going to be able to accelerate the pop-ups coming to downtown and perhaps staying downtown. You're going to turn around in a couple of months and see that we've been able to bring pop-ups every month, 3 or 4 pop-ups to downtown San Francisco.
There are several pop-ups that are slated to open in the next couple of weeks. But taking a look over the last year and a half or so, Vacant and Vibrant has brought 18 vacant storefronts to life with pop-ups. More than half of those business owners ended up signing long-term leases to stay in downtown San Francisco. As for Fridays on Front Street, here is a look at the schedule for the summer lineup. The first event is at the end of this month, followed by 3 more parties that run through October. That last one is a Fleet Week edition. Everyone is free. You just have to RSVP. Today marks preseason Game 2 for the Golden State Valkyries, the newest WNBA team. On Tuesday, they fell to the Los Angeles Sparks despite a second-half comeback. But the Valkyries' head coach, Natalie Nakase, made history before the team even played its first game. She's the first Asian American coach in the WNBA. Less than 2% of the WNBA's players are Asian, and over in the NBA, there's only been 1 Asian American head coach. So compare that to the Bay Area itself, where 2020 census data shows more than a quarter of the population here is Asian. Nakase says her new position is really an opportunity to connect with the community. Amanda Harry has more.
Natalie Nakase is picking up the ball and taking charge of the Golden State Valkyries, and she's making history while doing it. Nakase is the first Asian American head coach in the WNBA.
I'm very proud of being an Asian American.
It's a major step forward for Asian representation in professional sports. Historically, Asian Americans have been stereotyped as more academic than athletic, but Nakase is proving you can be both.
I stand for the misunderstood. I think the fact that there isn't a ton of visibility as being an Asian American and head coach in professional sports, but so to me, like, it's just got to be your passion.
In the WNBA's male counterpart, the NBA, there's only been 1 Asian head coach. According to the Institute of Diversity and Ethics in Sport, less than 2% of WNBA players are Asian. It's a stark contrast to the Bay Area. 2020 census data shows more than a quarter of the population is Asian.
I think I'm connecting with the community. I just spoke to someone who understood that my dad, when we talk about being proud, I said he does the head nod, and she resonated with that. She's like, my dad did that too.
At the Center of Sports and Social Justice at Cal State East Bay, co-director Matthew Atencio says they study how to promote inclusion and social justice in sports.
So the WNBA has been the standard in terms of hiring of racial members of society and also gender-wise.
He says representation like this is vital for a diverse community like the Bay Area.
The old phrase of, if they can see it, they can be it, is really, really important. It gives young girls and even coaches in the Bay Area something to look up to, and I think that awareness of the Valkyries being in town for the women's game is going to be tremendous.
And so far, the community is supporting Nakase. Fans filled Thrive City to watch her and the rest of the management team select players in the team's first WNBA draft, including an Asian player, Caitlin Chen.
The fans are ready, and the fans understand basketball, so that means a lot.
For Nakase, being a woman and Asian has shaped her, but so has basketball and her drive to be a great coach. That's why she believes she's getting this opportunity to lead the Valkyries.
Just work really hard for it. Swing big, risk big, and fail hard.
Passing through the glass ceiling and never looking back.
Nice. One more.
You can find all of our stories for AAPI Heritage Month on our website, kpix.com. Be sure to watch our special Legacy and Leadership on Pix Plus. You can watch that on Thursday, May 22nd at 7:30 p.m. and then again, May 24th at 7 p.m. Still ahead on CBS News Bay Area on this Sunday. While many Bay Area businesses are holding back in the midst of the ongoing trade war, one East Bay warehouse seems to be booming.
The demand is so high, we just keep expanding.
We'll take you inside a so-called bonded warehouse where overseas shipments can be stored without having to pay tariffs. Plus, One South Bay city has a message for people living on the streets: accept shelter or face arrest. The plan and the critics who say it is cruel and will not work.
This is not about criminalizing homelessness. It's about intervening when we're offering a solution.
It's just a way of moving the problem around and causing greater harm to people.
And 80 years ago this week, Nazi Germany surrendered to Allied forces in Europe. We'll hear from a World War II veteran now living in the East Bay who reflects on those battles and the lessons learned.
In the Bay Area, a new WNBA franchise is taking flight. Catch this first-in-a-lifetime inaugural season as the Golden State Valkyries play live on KPIX and Pix Plus.
Happy Sunday. A big cool down on the way today, especially after the 90s that we felt yesterday. We'll be lucky to reach 70 degrees across a lot of our inland areas and down into the Santa Clara Valley. By Monday, it only gets cooler as the potential for a little bit of rain arrives, especially earlier in the day. Keep an umbrella handy. Maybe give yourself an extra couple minutes on the road to kick off the week. But don't you worry, by the mid to later parts of the upcoming week, things will already be quickly warming right back up into the 80s, back to seasonable for this time of year. So it's just a couple of days to kick off the week that you are going to want to grab that jacket and the umbrella.
Many Bay Area businesses continue to endure uncertainty in the face of President Trump's tariffs. But one local warehouse in Fremont is seeing an explosion in activity. Our Kenny Choi takes us inside the so-called bonded warehouse, where the trade war means good business.
Francisco Garcia is the founder of Lynx Logistics, a high-tech security warehouse in Fremont. This fenced-off section, a U.S. Customs and Border Protection bonded warehouse where goods can be stored without paying tariffs until they're taken out, is a hot commodity.
The demand is so high, we just keep expanding.
As containers from around the world make their way to ports along the West Coast and eventually trucked to warehouses, Garcia is in a position to expand its already existing bonded warehouse.
By this time next week, this will be filled to the rim, and we're increasing this by 200% capacity.
Forklift operators are quickly moving inventory to make more space for the expansion. Lynx says it has been approved by U.S. Customs to triple its bonded space to 15,000 square feet.
We're installing new racks. We're gonna quadruple stack U.S. Customs bonded pallets.
Importers typically use bonded warehouses to bring in goods from one country before shipping them to another country without paying tariffs. But the current trade environment is changing the way these spaces are now being used. Shane Salazar is CEO of Lynx Logistics.
This is allowing companies to stretch their cash in terms of not paying for the entire shipment at entry to U.S. Customs and paying as they touch it from down to just a carton or a pallet.
Industrial property broker Danny Ream of JLL, a commercial real estate and investment management company, says inquiries for bonded spaces went from 1 to 2 calls in a typical 30-day period to well over 100 after Trump's so-called Liberation Day tariff announcement.
Everybody across the supply chain is trying to get their inventory here into the United States, into the West Coast market, and shield them from these tariffs in the anticipation that in the next 30 to 90 days, this will get figured out.
Until that happens, Garcia and his team are hard at work.
It's busy times on the phone and over email. It's little sleep lately.
It's an unanticipated business opportunity for an expanding company like his.
Bonded facilities have to meet specific government security requirements. Garcia says he can charge more based on demand, but operating a bonded space costs 80% more than operating a standard warehouse. To the South Bay now, the city of San Jose vowing to get everyone off the streets, whether that's into shelters or into jail. Mayor Matt Mahan calling his plan, quote, compassionate accountability. But our Suji Nam spoke with one community group that told her there is nothing compassionate about this plan.
The next phase of our capital, plan.
Poncho Guevara, the executive director of Sacred Heart Community Service in San Jose, helps connect families and those experiencing homelessness with resources like food and clothes. He says he's disappointed by Mayor Matt Mahan's latest plan to tackle the homeless crisis.
It's just a way of moving the problem around and causing greater harm to people.
The mayor's vision is to create neighborhood quality of life teams that include outreach staff and police officers.
We'll have outreach going to an encampment early, repeatedly. It's all about relationship building.
Mahan says his priority is to get rid of all encampment zones and bring the unhoused into shelter. But someone who refuses the help could be taken behind bars.
This is not about criminalizing homelessness. It's about intervening when we're offering a solution to homelessness that's repeatedly being refused.
The mayor says they're working on updating the Muni codes, and if the person is charged with a violent misdemeanor, they will be taken to jail. But for nonviolent misdemeanors,
we might be able to instruct our officers for nonviolent misdemeanors to bring the person not to be booked at the county jail, but to go to a place that is focused on rehabilitation.
Officials estimate around 5,000 people are unhoused in San Jose. Mahan is optimistic for change, citing the availability of 1,400 more beds that will be available in shelters this calendar year. Guevara, however, feels it's not a long-term solution.
They're not going to permanently solve the problem. People can stay there for a few months and then they have to leave.
The mayor's team will be bringing this plan to City Council's budget study session on Monday. Guevara hopes there will be a bigger focus on the bigger picture of prevention.
Not citing people in order to traumatize them, putting them in the criminal justice system that makes it harder for them to get a job or get an apartment.
The budget vote is still about 5 weeks away. The proposal is expected to be adjusted between now and June. Still ahead, we will check in with a World War II hero who became an unlikely social media star, how he's marking 80 years since World War II officially ended in Europe.
I don't think we're any wiser than anybody else or braver than anybody else. But we have a job to do.
Good morning. A big cool down and a chill has arrived across the Bay Area today. We're not necessarily feeling it too much early this morning, though, with pretty mild temperatures across the bay as a little bit of cloud coverage is making its way. And that cloud coverage is actually keeping those temperatures in the 50s from our South Bay communities all the way up to the North Bay. So if we compare this to normal for this time of year, it again is actually a couple of degrees within seasonable, if not exactly normal for this time of year. So not necessarily feeling the chill to kick off our morning, but by the afternoon, we are definitely going to be feeling those cooler temperatures. In fact, anywhere from 5 to nearly 10 degrees below average for this time of year. So do keep that in mind. We are going to be seeing these cooler than average temperatures today, and they're actually only going to stay cooler than average into tomorrow as well, as we are going to continue to see quite a lot of changes, not only cooler weather, windier weather, but also the potential for wetter weather on the way, as there is going to be a storm system and a cold front making its way across the Bay Area. It's going to arrive overnight tonight and into early Monday morning. I'll break down the details on when you'll want to grab that umbrella coming up in my full forecast.
80 years ago, the United States celebrated the end of World War II. Victory in Europe Day, or VE Day, marks the date Nazi Germany surrendered to the Allied forces. One East Bay veteran was there for some of the war's deadliest and most notorious battles, and he told our Len Ramirez he hasn't taken a single day for granted since.
Hello there.
Hello.
It's not every day that you get to meet an authentic American hero, but that's what happened when I walked into the Martinez home of 102-year-old Jake Larson.
I'm Papa Jake.
Very nice to meet you. You have a very strong grip there. Papa Jake calls himself a farm boy from Hope, Minnesota. He's not only one of the oldest living veterans of World War II, he's also a combat survivor of some of the most deadly battles of the war in Europe. And today his health is good and his memory sharp on this, the 80th anniversary of America's victory in Europe, a victory he helped to win.
What does VE Day mean to you?
Elation. Elation. And proud of what we've done. So many of the guys didn't get to be proud. They were dead. A whole bunch of my friends, they're up there smiling now. They got there before me.
Papa Jake lied about his age to enter the National Guard when he was just 15. He was in 5th Corps and helped type out the plans for the storming of Omaha Beach, and then hit the beach himself, dodging machine gun fire and deadly landmines.
And every once in a while, one of these lines would be a puff of water would go up in the air. Somebody stepped on a mine.
His tour took him through 5 other major battles, including the Battle of the Bulge. He says he was just doing his duty.
I don't think we're any wiser than anybody else or braver than anybody else. But we have a job to do. Hitler was ruining the world. And we were in the position to change his attitude.
Papa Jake returned to the U.S. after the war, got married to his sweetheart Lola, and started a family. He returned to France for the 75th anniversary of D-Day in 2019 and has returned every year since. And he recently became a TikTok sensation. His granddaughter, Michaela, set up his account, Storytime with Papa Jake, during the COVID lockdown, and he now has 1.2 million worldwide followers.
I turned out to be a natural storyteller.
Watch your hand.
Papa Jake says he survived D-Day and the other battles without a scratch, and he doesn't know why. He lost his beloved Lola 30 years ago and now lives with his children and grandchildren in a multi-family home that flies the American and French flags. He recently wrote a book, and the title may sum up his life.
The luckiest man in the world. That's me.
This is where he will live out the rest of his life. But unlike the saying, this old soldier is not going to just fade away. He returns to France next month for the 81st anniversary of the D-Day invasion.
Papa Jake also went to Normandy last year to mark 80 years since D-Day. A somber occasion, of course, but he was somewhat of a celebrity at that event. He even got to meet former President Joe Biden. Still ahead in our next half hour on CBS News Bay Area, artificial intelligence is being used more and more in the medical field. We'll have a look at how the emerging technology is being used to help detect strokes.
Our goal is just to make sure you're okay, right? Because we know what it's like.
And a mobile response team operating all around the clock to help people experiencing mental distress. How this South Bay crew avoids escalation with empathy. Hello, I'm Max Darrow, and this is The Minute. Today, the Golden State Valkyries will look to get their first ever WNBA win. They're on the road against the Phoenix Mercury in a preseason matchup. You can catch all the action this afternoon on Pix Plus, 44 Cable 12. A longtime See's Candies store on El Camino Real is closing for good today in the South Bay. Staff at the Sunnyvale location say it's a business decision, though the company hasn't provided further details. There are other See's Candies locations that do remain open across the South Bay, but this marks the end for this Sunnyvale store operating there for many years. In Mill Valley, it is day 2 of the music festival and the energy is high. Headliners like Nile Rodgers and Chick, Monophonics, and Sister Nancy taking the stage. There'll be plenty of food, drink, and sunshine to keep the good vibes going. I'm Max Darrow with The Minute.
After a beautiful and warm start to the weekend, a big cool down is on the way today. But early this morning, it's not necessarily cool. In fact, it's seasonable, if not a degree or two above average for this time of year, sitting in the 50s from the Santa Clara Valley to our inland communities and all the way to the North Bay. Well, you might see a couple of upper 40s in the North Bay, but either way, it is within a degree or two of normal, if not above average for this time of year. But do not expect the above average conditions to stick around for much longer than this morning, because by the afternoon, you are going to really feel a cool down. In fact, you might even be about 20 degrees cooler today compared to yesterday. Yesterday, we were in the 80s and 90s. Today, you'll be lucky to reach the 70s across our inland communities. Upper 60s to low 70s from the Santa Clara Valley to the inland East Bay, all the way up to the North Bay. Those highs are only going to be in the mid 60s as the onshore flow is going to take hold. Those windier conditions are going to arrive today, but it's not necessarily going to be any cloudier today. In fact, we'll actually be seeing a lot of sunshine throughout this afternoon before the potential for rain arrives later tonight. And that chance for rain will arrive overnight and into early Monday morning along a frontal boundary. But you notice as it pushes farther south over the bay, it kind of fizzles out. It dissipates. A lot drier air as it pushes south. So we really aren't expecting all too much heavy rainfall, but we'll take whatever rain we can get this time of year. That rain is going to continue again along with some breezier conditions. That's going to pick up tomorrow, but tomorrow no rain. The rain arrives overnight and those breezy conditions along with rainy conditions to kick off the upcoming week. Breaking down the exact timing again, most of today is going to be sunny, maybe a little bit of fog lingering across our South Bay communities, but that's really going to be it. Really not too much to worry about until overnight tonight. That's when the rain will be arriving to our North Bay communities, pushing south over the entirety of the Bay Area, but really it's not going to be heavy rainfall. I would still suggest giving yourself an extra couple of minutes on the roads to kick off the day Monday, but other than that, it's not going to be too impressive. A couple of hundredths of an inch maximum, maybe a couple of tenths of an inch across our North Bay. It will quickly push by the late morning and early afternoon hours, and although an isolated shower or two is possible Monday afternoon and evening, it's going to be a lot drier on the back end of this system. You still can't rule out an isolated shower early Tuesday as well, but those maximum rainfall totals are nothing to write home about. No flooding concerns, and we'll be lucky to get a tenth of an inch picked up across most of the bay. What's also good news is not only some rain, but also a little bit of snow, maybe an inch to 2 inches of snow across the highest elevations of the Sierra, as the storm system is definitely going to be packing a punch across northern California. But again, the further south it goes, the drier it gets. So we'll be looking at a little bit of action, but quickly departing into Tuesday. By the time that we step out Wednesday and into Thursday, we will be right back to normal for this time of year, right back into the mid to upper 70s to low 80s. So honestly, it is really not going to be anything too impressive over the next 7 days. It is going to be a pretty quick cool down that's going to arrive into early next week, and it's going to quickly warm right back up by mid to late next week. Those temperatures getting right back into the 70s around the bay. So grab an umbrella and grab a warmer jacket to kick off the week, but you're not going to need it much longer than Monday and maybe into early Tuesday.
A Bay Area startup is using artificial intelligence to try and detect strokes and save lives at the same time. According to the American Stroke Association, strokes are the leading cause of disability in the United States and the 5th leading cause of death. CDC figures show close to 800,000 Americans suffer a stroke every year. Nearly a quarter of those are people who have previously had a stroke. Early detection is critical to prevent long-term health effects. Our Kevin Coe looks at the technology that's being tested right now as the startup's CEO hits the books at Berkeley.
For Ajmita Kumar, college has been about discovering the world and herself.
I'm very introverted. This isn't something, this isn't something that comes naturally. This is the product of 2 years of really, really working at it and becoming, a representative of my vision and my idea.
That idea started with her dad, who told Kumar about her grandfather's history of strokes.
He couldn't walk, he couldn't talk, he couldn't even remember his own family members. So I grew up knowing that strokes were a very dangerous part of my family history. But in 2021, when half my dad's face started drooping, he didn't go to the hospital either.
Her dad was okay, but Kumar was shaken up. The health scare happened while she was studying electrical engineering and computer science at Berkeley. She wondered, how could she help her dad, living in Southern California, if he were to show symptoms of stroke again?
It occurred to us, we could use our skills as programmers to actually solve that problem.
That's how she and her friend Erica thought of and created Code Blue AI. Cameras and microphones would detect signs of stroke, calling 911 when needed. This shows how it would be used in a Zoom call with a doctor.
It can be used in telehealth conferencing, but yeah, the idea is that people who are very high risk for stroke should be able to access this through their suite of devices.
That means patients could add the technology on all their devices with a camera or microphone. Code Blue AI would analyze speech and facial images every 30 seconds, monitoring for slurring or drooping. Patients do opt in, but they could be opening up privacy concerns they never thought about. According to Brandy Noneke, the founding director of the Citrus Policy Lab based in UC Berkeley.
That can come up later where you didn't necessarily opt into the use of certain biometric data for certain purposes, but that's more of the extreme case. So I think it's great. As long as people are opting in and they know what data is being collected, stored, and how it's used, then it's all above board.
In response to data privacy concerns, Kumar says the data is deleted as soon as the analysis is done.
Our goal is not to be like, an Apple and a Google and collect your private health information. Our goal is just to make sure you're okay, right? Because we know what it's like.
Code Blue is being tested in a 20-patient study at UCSF. After more studies with more patients are complete, Kumar hopes it'll be ready by the summer of 2026.
Last month, Kumar and Code Blue represented UC Berkeley at the Atlantic Coast Conference InVenture Prize competition. Think of it like college sports, but for entrepreneurs. And while Code Blue didn't take home the top prize, Kumar impressed the judges with her project. A team in Santa Clara County is working around the clock to help those experiencing mental health crises. The program is called Trust, and they respond to more than 600 calls a month. Veronica Macias recently did a ride-along with Trust. They went out to an encampment in San Jose, not too far from that location where that police stabbing happened on Coleman Avenue last week. It's proof of how important it is for this team to build relationships and identify areas of need. The program was started for families wanting an alternative to police intervention to help people heal.
We got a call that this is...
These women together make up a trusted team, trained to respond to stressful situations when emotions are high and overwhelming. They're dispatched to all levels of calls, from a nervous breakdown to helping share information and community resources. Lifting the dark cloud, Elise Malcolm says, starts with human connection.
In providing that empathy, we're able to show people that the light is still there, even though it might not be visible, and that we can navigate back towards it together.
The Trust Mobile Response Team was formed in Santa Clara County from a community's call to action to help prevent low-level behavioral issues from escalating into more drastic situations. It's an alternative to police involvement for those seeking help.
A lot of law enforcement officers utilize Trust frequently. They activate us to come out and provide support and care within the scope of behavioral health because they are aware themselves that they are there to address crime and imminent threat. And when it comes to somebody that might be anxious or depressed or overwhelmed, that's not necessarily a call for law enforcement. So we are not just a resource for the community, but also for our fellow first responders.
A Trust Mobile Response Team is made up of a crisis intervention specialist, a first aid responder, and a peer support specialist, which is someone who can relate to a trauma situation through their own life experience. Encampments in the area can be hot zones for calls, but Trust serves people from all walks of life.
Just not to unhoused individuals. We go to families, regular people on the street that you see walking next to you every day. I mean, it's everyone. It's moms, it's dads, it's grandparents, it's aunts, uncles. It's everyone.
Understandable. We do have some resources that can help support you.
Each incoming call is evaluated. Information is taken down and a series of questions are asked about each situation. And while not every call may feel like they've helped someone turn a corner, they'll always leave knowing they've built a bridge to help someone on a new path.
Because sometimes in our own minds we don't think that it maybe wasn't as successful as we would have liked it to have been. And then that's
when the team is able to talk about like things that they can do either next time or what we can do when we're following up with the client.
And the number of calls are growing. From March to August of 2024, Trust responded to over 2,100 calls, with more than half requiring direct in-person intervention.
Being able to be there and help the community has been very rewarding, and makes us, want to come to work every day and love what we do. So,
Especially we all live here too. A community in which you live, it's like we're all community members here to support one another. It's like you're really not alone.
That interaction that our team has with individuals in the community, that's where it starts. That's where the healing starts and the trust starts as a whole. And it's working. It's really working.
If you or someone you know is struggling with suicidal thoughts, or you just need someone to talk to, you can call or text the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. That number is 988. It is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Thursday, May 15th is Mental Health Action Day, so join CBS News Bay Area and MTV by taking action for your friends with ASK. ASK stands for Acknowledge, Support, and Keep in Touch with your friends who need you as much as you need them. You can learn how to ask at the mentalhealthishealth.us. Coming up next, millions of trees burned in wildfires, the effort underway to replace them. It all begins with the seeds. Plus, we'll introduce you to a college athlete who is earning his keep with a couple that needs a lot of help around the house. We'll tell you all about the new app that connected them.
In the Bay Area, a new WNBA franchise is taking flight. Catch this first-in-a-lifetime inaugural season as the Golden State Valkyries play live on KPIX and Pix Plus.
Good morning. A big cool down and a chill has arrived across the Bay Area today. We're not necessarily feeling it too much early this morning, though, with pretty mild temperatures across the bay as a little bit of cloud coverage is making its way. And that cloud coverage is actually keeping those temperatures in the 50s from our South Bay communities all the way up to the North Bay. So if we compare this to normal for this time of year, it again is actually a couple of degrees within seasonable, if not exactly normal for this time of year. So not necessarily feeling the chill to kick off our morning, but by the afternoon, we are definitely going to be feeling those cooler temperatures. In fact, anywhere from 5 to nearly 10 degrees below average for this time of year. So do keep that in mind. We are going to be seeing these cooler than average temperatures today, and they're actually only going to stay cooler than average into tomorrow as well, as we are going to continue to see quite a lot of changes. Not only cooler weather, windier weather, but also the potential for wetter weather on the way, as there is going to be a storm system and a cold front making its way across the Bay Area. It's going to arrive overnight tonight and into early Monday morning. I'll break down the details on when you'll want to grab that umbrella coming up in my full forecast.
In today's Project Earth, we're talking about fire season. Because last year's fire season was marked by significant wildfires throughout the state that were stoked by a hotter than normal June and a lot of dry vegetation. More than 1 million acres burned over the course of the year. Now, from ashes to redwoods, an unusual nursery on hand to give California's forests a fresh start. Here's Marlee Ginter.
Growing future forests.
We're not here to override nature, but we're here to support it.
These tiny seedlings will soon be used to replace trees burned during California's devastating wildfires.
This is incredibly important. If we don't reforest after a wildfire has gone through an area, we risk permanent forest loss.
This nursery is part of CAL FIRE's Reforestation Center in Davis, where they grow row after row of trees.
Like ponderosa pine, Jeffrey pine, incense cedar, coast redwood, Douglas fir.
The process starts out in established forests where workers collect pine cones.
This is what the seed looks like.
They're then brought back to Davis to be harvested.
We'll dump all the cones into this hopper here.
The baby trees grow for a year and are eventually boxed up and replanted in burn scars across the state.
We've got approximately 1.8 million acres that needs reforestation from these devastating fires that we've experienced in the last 5 to 10 years.
The facility also houses California's seed vault. A storage area kept at a frigid 0 degrees Fahrenheit, with 40,000 pounds of seeds that can be used to regrow native species lost during catastrophic events.
This box here is of Douglas fir.
Right now, Cal Fire's nursery produces 250,000 trees each year, and they're getting ready to expand 4 times bigger.
Even increasing to 1 million is still only a fraction of the overall need.
It's California's ongoing effort to recover from devastating fires and protect the state's forest for future generations.
It'll take time for the seedlings to become large, mature trees, about 50 years, if not more. More information, head to kpix.com. Coming up, could the housing market use a matchmaker? The Bay Area startup taking a different approach when it comes to addressing the housing crisis.
It doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like a chore to lend a helping hand.
It gives me back my freedom, and he's great to have around, and he laughs at my jokes.
A Bay Area startup is taking a different approach in an attempt to help solve the housing crisis. It's a matchmaking app, but not in the traditional way you might be thinking of. Itai Hod shows us how they are zeroing in on what could be an untapped market.
When most students have called it a day, Nanik Tagore is just getting started. A shooting guard for the Dominican University basketball team, he's got range, control, and a shot that rarely misses. But when it came time to find housing in the Bay Area, let's just say he was out of his league.
San Rafael is one of the most expensive places to live, so I wasn't sure how I was going to be able to live on my own.
That's when he stumbled on a startup called Joey, a platform that pairs students with homeowners who need a little help around the house. Nanik now pays about $1,700 a month for a room in Marin County. But $500 of that he works off with chores, cleaning windows, taking out the trash, sorting the mail, and yes, making lunch.
Did you even know how to cook?
The basics.
The people he lives with can use the help. Paige Miller has early-stage dementia. Her husband Robert runs a company and works long hours.
My worry actually was Paige. Would she feel comfortable having somebody else live in the house?
It gives me back my freedom, and he's great to have around, and he laughs at my jokes.
With about 60% of U.S. homes having at least one spare bedroom, the new housing frontier may already be built and gaining momentum.
It just didn't make sense to me why we couldn't have something similar to au pairs for older adults.
Joey founder and CEO Allison Donnelly says Nanik is the first student to match up, but more applications are already being processed.
What we can do at Joey Co. is create more bedroom inventory for these students.
So here's my room.
As for Nanik, he's found more than just a place to stay.
It doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like a chore to lend a helping hand.
Because sometimes the most important plays don't happen on the court.
Here's the salad.
They happen in real life.
They're colorful.
When no one's keeping score.
Are these peas any good?
Yeah, they are.
Each renter comes to a unique agreement with the homeowner that accounts for rent and how much they are able to help out with chores. The Joeys are paid by the hour and they are reimbursed at the end of each month. Thanks for streaming CBS News Bay Area. I'm Max Darrow. We'll be right back with your First Alert forecast and today's top stories.